Okay, so we have our next controversial video from Solar TV. I mean, I wouldn't say that these are controversial videos, these are news videos for me, for learn and educate myself on this case. New Jeans Honey accidentally revealed cookie trap. Okay, so actually seen I've seen a snippet of the video that her and her other bandmate Minty, I think that's how you say her name, I don't know honestly, put out after the hearing, and they basically like laughing all the way, and they doesn't take anything seriously what happened. So yeah, we're going to check out this video and hear the rest of the story.
So it seems Eugene Honey's recent cookie show at the National Assembly further damaged the New Jeans brand. The girls are not even in the top 100 anymore. And as we all know, a brand's major foundation is trust. And over the weekend, we saw from HANNI and Minji's own speech in a phoning live, further eroding that trust, and also an SNL Korea live performance outlining and getting really at the heart of the matter that
I've also known about this SNL skit that they did, and basically everyone in South Korea making a fun of this case.
at least the comedians are poking fun at the lack of trust in this situation. So if we look at the short interlude of what I'm going to call Minji and Hani's phoning confession, because they literally just confessed to the world that Hani put on a show at the National Assembly. It wasn't actually a real heartfelt feeling of being bullied that she had to share with the world. It revealed what a manipulation it truly was and how it was a setup. And what we saw from the public that was then codified into comedic form by SNL Korea was that this was a setup. And it was a situation where you're lining up multiple buyers, the bunny uncles, for the same product. And I've seen this Jezebel move before. You all have seen this Jezebel move before if you had paid attention and weren't one of the people who suppressed their gut feeling, saying, like, oh, she's so misunderstood. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. You know, just sweeping cancer under the rug and then feeling like you're miscongeniality. But how do you dangle a cookie and sell it multiple times and then not even give it away? I was looking at this, I was like, you know what? This is like derivatives or something. You are selling the same cookie multiple times and then you never actually deliver the real cookie so that you get payoff multiple times without ever giving the cookie away. And as long as the bunny uncles don't realize that they've been scammed, you can get away with it. And let's go into the phoning confession because I thought this was just totally audacious. They thought, and this is when you have this uncomfortable feeling of thinking like, okay, they're not aware that they just literally spilled the beans.
Oh, and by the way, I've seen the funeral rites in front of Hybe because they want Suga out of BTS, and armies lined up and basically did a Purple Ribbon Project 2.0 in front of Hype to um, basically they stood in front of the rides and they blocked the view of them, and they essentially were said to leave the place because the rides were um rightfully there because someone bought them, and they've had a 5 hours allowance, or the police allowed them to be the rights to be there until 5 hours, something like that. And it was just sad. I've seen a short video where who bought the funeral rights. They were exiting a building. I don't know the the exact thing that happened, but they were going somewhere, and the person that recorded the video is basically said like goodbye B word, but the goodbye was in Korean, so like annyeong B word, but the B word were in English, so it was hilarious. But yeah, essentially the buyers were like gone after the amount of time that their rights were allowed to be in front of the building of Hybe. So I mean, this is a whole different topic, but I wanted to say it because I'm pretty sure that this topic, this funeral rights topic, is not going to get a um, separate video of its own in my channel in the close future, I think.
because they're so young, even though they are, yes, adults, and they are responsible for their actions. However, they don't really understand the entire context of what's going on and how they're being used in this, but are also being active participants. So, whatever grace you want to give to the insolence of youth, that's up to you. But honey, it was insolent. So let's go.
And the funny thing is that Honey and Minji, or not Minji, but Honey and Danielle, if I'm remembering correctly, because I looked up their ages. They are born in 2004. And the interesting thing is that you can say that they are young, but they are 20 years old. And one of my good friends, is also 20 years old. Like, she is born in 2004, and we we finished university together. Like, I am a little bit older than her, but we started and finished university together. And right now she is 20 years old. So, and you can say that she grew up in a different situation than most of us, and like the education system in her country where she came from was a little bit different from like my educational background, but she had to grow up fast, and she were up to challenge, and she started university at 16 years old, and she didn't have anything special, outstanding educational background that would allow her to be another level in terms of knowledge in order to start university sooner than anyone else who is in her age. So what I was going to say about this case then, that a lot of people can say that they are young, but they are not kids. Like they can make their own decisions and they willingly enter this industry. So that's for that.
Go over this. So it's just Honey and Minji sitting there, and then Minji was saying like, "Oh, I love the video you sent to me," and then Honey bursts into this laugh.
I love the video that you sent it to me. That was very cute.
In the most generous interpretation, you could say that maybe she was uncomfortable or feeling anxiety about the situation, and this is how she lets it out. However, it reminded me of a laugh I've seen before multiple times, and I was wondering, like, who laughs like this, especially if you are talking about a traumatic experience that you would further be re-triggered by and relive the trauma at the National Assembly. Why does she laugh like that? And then I realized, take a look.
That was very cute.
Nah, that's nasty.
So at this point, I'm
But true.
still willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And then Minji asks, "Can I talk about the behind the scenes story?" Honey says, "Sure." And Honey said, "I made weird expressions." And then she laughs again and tears. And then Minji made a creepy gesture of tears, not sad or traumatic, but as if it was like a performance that she accomplished successfully. And then Honey laughs again in relief after Minji said a lot of people cried with you. I think they were reading the messages from their fans on the phoning app. And Honey says, "Well, I'm human too. Tears can happen." Okay, where have we heard that line before from her stage mom? And then she said, she didn't go into, how this was about testimony for the victims, how she felt like a victim, how she had to stand up for it, how she really went through a lot on behalf of other people. And then for them, she said, the funny thing is, what was really evident, and I knew this was gonna happen, when I started crying, the camera shutters started to click like crazy, as if she's bragging about her performance. This is how you talk about a performance that you are proud of, not a heartfelt, traumatic experience that has been retriggered by going to the National Assembly, and how other bunny uncles in the media will get to described it as such. So Honey smiles like she did a good job. Minji sort of tries to save her because you can kind of tell, well, this is a little bit, going on the territory of Jezebeldom. And Minji said, "Well, I wasn't able to see all of it live, and I didn't see the crying part because I had to go to some appointment or event." She said it's schedule. And then she said when she came back, she did a search and she saw all like these hundreds of photos uploaded of her crying. And she's like, "What?" And she's trying to pretend it as if it was like, "Oh my God, I'm shocked." But the subtext was like, she's shocked in a way where she's like, "Wow, this is amazing," as in like a good thing. And then Honey was laughing along that line, as if she's being complimented.
I mean, theater is beautiful. So, and this is a theater, this is a circus, and they are actors and actresses in a paid environment because the assembly is essentially was paid out. If they, I mean, the SNL skit is speaking for itself, I think. So no one is taking this seriously.
And then Minji, in a very mini Jin voice, said, "You cried? I had no, like as if like it was a shock that she was manufacturing shock, like, oh my god, you won?
근데 얘가 울고 우는 사진이 한 100장 뜬 거야.
어떤 분 찍으신 거예요?
아니
저랑 잠깐 얘기.
그래가지고 얘 울었어? 이러고서 봤는데.
And then Honey said, like, yeah, as if she scored a touchdown. And then Minji claps as if, yes, this was about a touchdown. And then if there was any doubt in your mind at this point, Minji said, you know, I thought in my head, that's my girl, that's my girl.
완전 마음속으로 That's my girl, that's my girl 하면서 보면
That's my girl? For what? Yeah. Playing your part successfully in this orchestrated hit against your supposed enemies in the Hybe building. And then they do some weird thing where they start singing the first lines of Taeyang's Eyes, Nose, Lips.
미안해 미안해 하지마 내가 초라해지잖아
미안해 미안해 하지마 내가 초라해지잖아. Anyway, guys.
And it's literally just, don't say sorry, don't say sorry, don't say sorry. They're literally laughing in all of our faces with this. It was absolutely egregious, and they didn't even know that they were really confessing their crime. And the biggest thing is, if the crying were real, why didn't Minji ask if, you know, the tears, where they were from, and then comforting her? Instead, she congratulated her as if she scored a touchdown. So they confessed that this was literally all an act, and all Honey could do was keep laughing in that maniacal, villainous way. Because real victims of bullying don't look like Honey.
That's true. And the short clip about the SNS kit and this live that they did, I've seen in a video which was made by a Korean gentleman who expressed his feelings about the situation and what should be the appropriate step to take to Hype and in South Korea in general. What should do the country in order to stop this scandal and drama. And he said that HANNI should be sent back to Vietnam, to her home country, and he was angry, like passive aggressive. I can see on his face and the tone. I mean, he was not frantic and out of the pocket in the video, but I can clearly see that he was agitated and just so over this case, which I completely understand. So I didn't see his whole video on this topic, but I've seen a little bit because I've seen that quote-unquote spoiler that I know that Solar TV will cover, so I was stopped. I will not watch further, but I mean, if I would be in the gentleman's shoes, I would say the same thing and I would feel the same thing. And even now that I've heard this, I feel the same, even though I am not South Korean or anything like that. So yeah, it's frustrating.
Some of you said in the message board that real victims are afraid to go to school or work. And we can see from the messages that new jeans were created by many jinn and designed so that they would be able to perch themselves like the queen bees at hive. That's the bullying position. Only to a bully is not being greeted with like the proper respect gonna feel like an affront or an offense. People with that narcissistic psychopathical pathology have this feeling of being attacked if they're not being glorified. And I think this is an unfortunate byproduct of when you really don't value yourself. So a lot of the times, we say like the bullies are the actual weak ones, and this is one of the ways where they actually are more weak inside than normal people, is that there's an incredible sense of shame. And especially with the way that they be bantering their cookies about, I would sense that after a certain point, or if not immediately, you start to feel a deep shame that you cannot pacify. And the methods and the routes for a lot of these people to pacify their shame is to make other people feel as ashamed as they do. And then somehow they can feel normal again by not being as shameful as the person you're bullying, so that you can feel a sense of relief. And I think if this is the cookie route that they decided to go down, that is their choice. So there's one news show that I find sometimes very entertaining yet very informative about social events in Korea. And usually this guy gets it right, but this time even he was a bunny uncle, and he made excuses for HANNI and her crying. And he said that the only thing I can remember is her crying, and that she would say, next time I come to the National Assembly, I'll learn Korean better.
What about not going to the assembly ever again? It's a good idea too. I mean, education is important, so you should definitely learn the language, but essentially, you may be probably going to leave the country soon. I mean, a lot of netizens is hoping for that. So, I mean, I am siding with the sane side of the country who is demanding the, I wouldn't say disbandment of New Jeans, because even if it's one member missing, it can be a full group. But Honey made this story so much bigger, and I mean, not beneficial for her, that I wouldn't be surprised if Hype is made a good decision about her.
So he seems like, wow, okay. That to me, weak mind. Very vulnerable to cookie offers and feeling like he's going to get the cookie. And then also the Korean thing was people who are really easily triggered to feel good about themselves for misplaced national pride. That, like, oh my god, the foreigner wants to learn Korean. Oh my god, that makes me feel better about my miserable existence. So of something that they didn't actually earn. So a lot of when patriotism is misused and abused like this, it's an easy way to grab somebody, because just being born in a certain country means that you didn't have to do any of the work for that identity, but any positive attributes put onto that identity, you feel like you can just take as profit without doing any of the work for any kind of praise or glory. And so that did not look good on him. And usually I really like what, he has to say and how he does his job. And he just looked like another uncle competing for the cookie, and he was not very happy when one of the panelists explained why there were concerns that she really didn't belong in the hearing. And we know these are not dumb people. They
And honestly, I just thought about it, like, if these bunny uncles are waiting for their piece of the cookie, like, I mean, what do they expecting? Like, they stand beside Honey and Eugene's and Minhijin and stuff like that, and then, and what's gonna happen to them, for them? What 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 beneficial cookie that they are going to get if they are siding with them? Honestly, like this is too much uncles to be a real exchange of something in the plate, if we can say it like that. Like, I don't think that they were promised anything. Like, I don't know why they think that this is going to be a positive outcome in their side.
have logic, but they are making a choice for the cookie versus justice. And we saw that in the next segment, they were excoriating the bunny uncle who was the guy who took the selfie with Honey in the chamber room, and he was the CEO of the shipbuilding company Hanwha Ocean, who was responsible for 5 people's deaths this year and was called to the National Assembly to explain himself. And the most recent person who died was like a week and a half ago, and they were really criticizing him, but it looked like they were criticizing him because they were upset that he was getting in front of the line for the cookies. Like I said before, these are cookie derivatives. You ain't never, ever, ever, ever going to receive delivery of the cookie.
Exactly.
And this media personality was saying, oh, this CEO took advantage of Honey, who probably didn't even know who he was. Well, then she don't have to take the photo. She's not required to take the photo in that room. She
In
could
that
just
situation.
be concentrating or
Yeah.
pretending like she didn't see him creepily trying to get her in the back of his shot. She chose to do that. And what this does is that it's just going to teach more Jezebels that crying really works. Crying like this really works on these men because then it absolves any doubt over any kind of suspicions people might have over your scheming and plantations, because they're always loose threads. And it covers a lot in terms of lying. And then also, I think when you're internally upset because of a lot of lying, the crying releases it. So it has a win-win effect, but it really only works if there are bunny uncles buying them cookies. But SNL Korea knew exactly what was going on. They're not always good, and they're controversial in terms of, some of the ways they present what's going on, but they also are bold. And in this case, I think they really got the subtext right about what was going on in the National Assembly. But the main subversion in the humor was directed at the bunny uncles in the National Assembly and not necessarily HANNI. So all these bunnies criticizing SNL Korea for discriminating against HANNI, you should really understand the structure of a comedic skit and know that the targets were the National Assembly and not HANNI. They could have done a lot worse with HANNI, but they didn't. It was more about the National Assembly members fawning. So we saw the auntie who took a private meeting and got criticized for that, like she was fangirling and she was taking videos of HANNI's entrance in the real situation, and then so she was portrayed as somebody who was like a fan going crazy.
안녕하세요, 파마입니다.
뭐 하신 거예요?
So the skit starts, I came here to testify about my workplace bullying, and one of the bunny uncles says, okay, well, you got to sign this document saying that you came here for the attendance. And so the uncle who brings the document also asks her to sign his back and to really sign her last name as well, because how was everybody going to know that this is from you, HANNI, or not just some other girl named HANNI?
서명 좀 해주십시오. 여기에다가 좀 사인을 한이만 적으면 어떡합니까? 달려라 한인지 한이팜인지 모르지 않습니까? 끝나고 함자도 좀 적어주세요.
Then she started to cry after telling her hallway story, and we saw the toilet paper competition. This, I think they got this right, because, you know, what is that, you know, in terms of size? So the first there was the Kleenex, then there was the regular roll of toilet paper, then like the big roll of toilet paper you find in office buildings or restaurants, competing for her.
옆팀 상사님이 야 그냥 무시해라고 하셨습니다. 너무 슬펐습니다.
왜또 운동을 해요? 여기. 아 그만하세요.
And then one of the bunnies even pockets the tear-stained tissue, ew, but really on point about how gross this was. And then another actor playing a politician was saying, like, why are you taking this tissue? And it was more out of like jealousy rather than like, ew, that's inappropriate. And then the guy was like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna throw this away for her. And then he says blatantly, like, don't worry, honey, I'm a fan of yours.
아 그만하세요. 눈물 닦고 휴지를 왜 챙기는 거예요? 아, 대신 버려드리는 겁니다. 그러지 마세요. 엄청 팬이에요.
To also then reiterate how biased and stilted this was, where the politicians weren't hiding whatsoever their allegiance and alliance to HANNI and New Jeans and that whole machine behind them. And she definitely brought up the "you're not doing your best" line. And then all the other bunny uncles jumped up and like said, like, let me do it for you instead. Count on me. I can do it. Like competing with themselves, the way that we all saw through the subtext of the hearing. SNL Korea brought that subtext to the surface and made it funny.
회사 대표님이 해결을 위해 최선을 다하고 계실 겁니다.
죄송한데요. 최선을 다하셨다고 생각하지 않아요.
저희가 대신 제가 대신입니다.
The selfie uncle was mocked too. The other uncle said, why are you taking selfies? Stop. Sort of in the sense of, that's inappropriate. But then that person who said, like, why are you taking those selfies? And don't forget to airdrop all those photos you just took to me. So you see how SNL Korea understood what was going on. They saw that this was a cookie competition, fighting all over each other for a sus box of cookies. And yes, I have seen this play out in real life working in Korea. One time we had to go to MT, which is called membership training. It came out of a cultural tradition in Korean college clubs, where if you join a club, then There's supposed to be some sort of retreat to train the members, but maybe it used to be legitimately some sort of training operation, but it's just become like an excuse to go away, and usually it's sort of like camping, that kind of a thing. So I went on an MT. Oh, and then they also do it in the offices. A lot less these days, but when I was there in the earlier days, there was a lot of them. And so we went on this MT to like a camping situation where we all had to, pack a bag and stuff like that. And there were these two guys who were obviously competing for a cookie that the Jezebel was dangling. And she didn't want to drive all the way over there, but she wanted her own car, to go in her own car. And so these two dudes, one drove her car with her, and another dude drove behind them all the way to the site. This is like an hour, 2 hours away from Seoul. And then the excuse was, because they weren't involved in the MT, that they would then go into the one car that was following behind on the way there to go back. Who does that? Who does that? Because both these guys weren't close friends with the
Horny
Jezebel. Jezebel
guys?
really didn't have many close friends, unless like they were
Probably.
checking out her cookie recipe. And so her cookie was, I guess, the prize, but then
Yeah.
what losers, they both had to go back together in the same car after wasting all that time to drive.
I mean, what did I say in my other videos? It takes one woman. It only takes one woman, and it's done.
Drive her over there. It was really weird, but the cookies, them cookies work. They work until they don't work, and it looks like the cookies are starting to crumble over with New Jeans. Their brand ranking has plummeted. They're not even in the top 100 anymore, and a lot of the brand rankings are based on trust. So people,
And it's so sad because, I mean, honestly, they started like all-time high. If you think about it, like they've had success from the beginning with everything they have done so far in music, in collaborations, in brand building and stuff like that. And to see that in such short time it can crumble like it never happened. And if they will crumble and disappear in a few years like it's never happened, and it's so sad. And the Korean gentleman who did the video on the SNL, and the hearing video after the hearing the video that the two girls did, he said something that I didn't thought about. I mean, I thought about it, but I didn't know how to describe it. What I wanted to say, vocalize it. That so far the New Jeans members were victims in a lot of people's eyes until they became accomplices to Min Hee-jin. And this transition from victim to I mean, eventually collaborators in this crime or hate crime or bullying thing, it's shifted like a lot. And a lot of people don't want to think about that such young girls do this on purpose in front of the whole nation and the world and in the National Assembly hearing, and they make fun of the hearing after the event, like literally do a live with your other member and laugh the whole live and make jokes and treat the situation as it's like nothing. And probably it's part of that aspect that I don't know what Minji's nationality exactly, but the fact that Hanni is behaving like that, it's not surprising for me after hearing that she's not comfortable. She cannot navigate comfortably in the Korean conversations and certain aspects of the culture that she cannot grasp yet. And this hearing was a really good example of this situation, that she don't care and she doesn't want to care. So yeah.
People just don't trust them cookies. All right, guys, what do you think? Did you see the SNL Korea? Did you see the phoning? Do you believe that Minji and Honey were being honest? Or they were being too honest, that they revealed what they didn't think that they would reveal? And what do you think about the overall situation? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
I think that they are know what they are saying, and they just didn't care because they thought that they have the upper hand because they've had such a success in the hearing, like inside of the room were our bunny fans essentially. So I think they thought in that situation that they're on the winning side, but no. And the fact that their popularity and the trust between them and the products and the companies that partnering with them are fading is obvious sign, that is an obvious sign that this story is going to end really, really fast.